The sound of the champagne glass shattering against the marble floor was louder than a gunshot. It wasn't the sound that stopped Zara's heart. It was the laugh, that cold, hollow laugh coming from the man standing next to her on the podium. Julian didn't just drop the glass. He threw it. He threw it right at her feet, shards of crystal exploding against the hem of her gold evening gown. "You thought—" Julian's voice boomed through the microphone, echoing across the cavernous ballroom of the Grand Seoul Hotel. "You actually thought you were making partner tonight? You?" 300 of South Korea's elite, CEOs, politicians, art collectors, stared. The silence was absolute. It was a vacuum that sucked the air out of Zara's lungs. "Ladies and gentlemen," Julian sneered, pointing a manicured finger at her face, "I present to you the fraud of the century, the woman who has been siphoning funds from this gallery for 2 years. The woman I trusted. The woman I loved." "Julian?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "What are you doing? The accounts? You signed them." "Don't," Julian hissed, covering the mic for a split second. "Don't make this harder. Just leave, and maybe I won't call the police." He uncovered the mic, his face twisting into a mask of tragic betrayal. "Security, please, remove her. I can't bear to look at her." The humiliation was a physical weight pressing down on her shoulders. Whispers erupted like wildfire. Phones were raised, capturing her destruction in 4K resolution. Zara saw the faces of people she had dined with, people she had helped curating collections for, now looking at her with disgust. She was the outsider again, the foreigner, the thief. 2 burly security guards in ill-fitting suits started marching toward the stage. Zara took a step back, her heel crunching on the broken glass. She wanted to run, but her legs felt like lead. She wanted to scream that Julian was the embezzler, that he was framing her to cover his gambling debts, but who would believe her? He was a park. She was nobody. The first guard reached for her arm. "Don't touch her." The voice didn't shout. It didn't have to. It cut through the murmurs, the camera shutters, and Julian's fake sobbing like a blade of ice. It came from the back of the room, from the VIP shadows where the real power sat. The crowd parted. It wasn't a polite shuffling. It was a wave of pure instinctual fear. Walking down the center aisle was a man who looked like he had been carved out of the night itself. He wore a tuxedo that cost more than the gallery, but he wore it with the casual indifference of a predator. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with hair swept back from a face that was devastatingly handsome and terrifyingly cold. Tae-oh Min, the bastard prince of the Min conglomerate, the mad dog of Seoul. Julian's face went pale. The microphone dipped in his hand. "Mr. Min, this is a private internal matter." Tae-oh didn't look at Julian. He didn't look at the crowd. His obsidian eyes were locked on Zara. He walked up the stairs to the stage, his movements fluid and lethal. The security guard scrambled backward, terrified to even be in his orbit. Tae-oh stopped in front of Zara. He was close enough that she could smell him, sandalwood, tobacco, and rain. He looked down at the broken glass around her feet, then up into her tear-filled eyes. "Is it true?" he asked. His voice was low, a rumble in his chest. "No," Zara choked out. She didn't know why she answered him. She should be running. "He's lying." Tae-oh turned to Julian. The movement was slow, deliberate. Julian flinched. "She says you're lying," Tae-oh said. "She's a criminal," Julian stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. "I have the ledgers. I have the proof. Mr. Min, please, you don't want to associate with trash like—" The slap echoed louder than the glass had. Tae-oh didn't use his palm. He used the back of his hand, a dismissive, violent strike that sent Julian sprawling across the stage. The crowd gasped. Julian clutched his bleeding lips, staring up in horror. Teo adjusted his cufflink. You are boring me, Julian, and you are insulting my intelligence. He turned back to the microphone. He gripped the stand and the feedback screeched. The park gallery is bankrupt, Teo announced, his voice bored. I bought the debt 3 hours ago, which means I own the building, I own the art, and I own the staff. He turned his head slowly, scanning the room. Every person he looked at looked away. And regarding Miss Ndiaye, Teo continued, his hand reaching out to grab Zara's trembling wrist. She is not a thief. She is my fiancée. The silence shattered. The room exploded into chaos. Questions, shouts, flashes. Zara stared at him, her mouth opening to protest, to ask who the hell he was and what he was doing. Do not speak, Teo commanded, his voice barely a whisper against her ear, his grip on her wrist like iron. If you speak, you go to prison. If you come with me, you live. Choose. Zara looked at Julian, who was wiping blood from his chin with hate in his eyes. She looked at the crowd, hungry for her blood. Then she looked at the dangerous stranger offering her a hand that felt more like a shackle than a lifeline. She nodded. Teo didn't smile. He simply pulled her. He dragged her off the stage, through the parting sea of shocked elites, and toward the exit. Zara stumbled, trying to keep up with his long strides, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. They burst through the heavy double doors into the cool night air of Seoul. A convoy of 3 black SUVs was waiting, engines idling. A driver opened the rear door of the middle car. Teo shoved her inside, not gently, and climbed in after her. The door slammed shut, sealing out the noise, the flashbulbs, and her old life. Drive, Teo said. She was shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by a cold, creeping terror. She had just been kidnapped. No, she had agreed to go. But who was this man? Everyone in Korea knew the name Min, but Teo was a ghost story. The son who did the dirty work. The fixer. Stop shaking, Teo said. He was looking at his phone, typing rapidly. He didn't even glance at her. It's annoying. Who are you? Zara demanded, though her voice lacked the strength she wanted. Why did you do that? Teo finally stopped typing. He slid the phone into his jacket pocket and turned his head. In the dim light of the passing street lamps, his face was all sharp angles and shadows. I saved you, he said flatly. Julian Park had a warrant for your arrest ready to be filed in the morning. He cooked the books, yes, but he did it using your login credentials. You were going to prison for 10 years, Zara. Zara felt sick. How do you know that? I know everything that happens in this city before it happens. That is my business. And the fiancé thing? Zara asked, her breath hitching. Why would you say that? You don't even know me. I know you are the best curator in Asia. I know you increased the park gallery's revenue by 200% in 18 months. I know you are an orphan holding a Nigerian passport and a Korean residency visa that Julian was about to revoke. He leaned forward, invading her space. The air in the car seemed to drop 10 degrees. I need a wife, Zara, and you need a shield. Tonight I provided the shield. Now you provide the wife. You're insane, Zara whispered. I'm not marrying you. Pull this car over. No. I said pull over. Zara lunged for the door handle. It was locked. Teo grabbed her arm, pulling her back into the seat with effortless strength. He pinned her there, his face inches from hers. His eyes were dark pools, devoid of any warmth, any empathy. Listen to me closely, he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl. You have nothing. As of 10 minutes ago, your bank accounts are frozen. Your apartment is being raided by the police. Julian has destroyed you. If you step out of this car, you will be deported or imprisoned within 24 hours. Teo released her arm and sat back, adjusting his tie. Or, he continued, You marry me for 1 year. You help me secure my inheritance from my father, who is currently dying and refusing to leave his company to a bachelor. In exchange, I destroy Julian Park. I clear your name. And I give you $10 million when the contract ends. Zara stared at him. It was a deal with the devil. She knew the stories about the Min family. They ate people alive. But she also remembered Julian's laugh. She remembered the glass shattering. She remembered the feeling of being completely, utterly alone in a country that never fully accepted her. Why me? She asked softly. You could have any woman in Korea. I don't want a woman who loves me, Teo said, looking out the window. I want a woman who hates the world as much as I do. I saw your eyes on that stage. You have fire in you. I can use that. The car began to slow down. They were turning into a massive gated compound in the hills of Hanamdong. High walls, cameras, armed guards. It wasn't a house. It was a fortress. We are here, Teo said. Decide. Get out and walk down the hill to the police station or come inside and rewrite your destiny. Zara looked at the gate. She looked at the dark road behind them. Then she looked at Teo. He wasn't looking at her. He was waiting. She thought of her father, who told her to never let anyone make her feel small. She thought of Julian, who tried to crush her. I want it in writing, Zara said, her voice hardening. And I want to be the one who destroys Julian. Teo turned to her. For the first time, the corner of his mouth quirked up. It wasn't a smile. It was a challenge. Deal. My lawyers will have the contract ready by morning, Teo said, tossing his jacket onto a leather sofa. He loosened his tie, looking exhausted. Tonight, you sleep in the guest wing. East corridor, second door. I have no clothes, Zara said, standing in the middle of the living room, still clutching her purse. I have nothing. Mrs. Kim has arranged everything. Teo walked to a wet bar and poured himself a glass of amber liquid. He didn't offer her one. Do not try to leave. The sensors will trigger, and the security team is not trained to be gentle with intruders. Is that a threat? It is a safety briefing. He took a sip, watching her over the rim of the glass. You are now a target, Zara. My enemies will wonder who you are. My stepmother will try to find dirt on you. Julian will try to discredit you. You are under my protection, but only if you stay inside the walls. Zara walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window. The city lights twinkled below, indifferent to her plight. What do I tell my friends? You have no friends, Teo said brutally. Watch the news. He picked up a remote and flicked on the massive wall-mounted screen. The news channel was already running the footage. The headline screamed, Fraud at the Gala. Park Gallery director accused of embezzlement. Then the footage changed. It showed Teo dragging her out. The chyron changed. Min Tayo intervenes. Secret romance or hostage situation. They are already spinning it, Teo said. By tomorrow morning, the narrative will be that we are deeply in love, that I discovered Julian's plot to frame you, and I rescued you. We will announce the wedding date for next month. Next month? Zara spun around. That's too soon. My father has 3 months to live. We need to be married before he dies, or the board votes my stepbrother in as chairman. I will not let that happen. You hate them, Zara observed. She could see it in the tension of his jaw. I loathe them, Teo corrected. And they fear me. It is a functional relationship. He set the glass down. Go to sleep. Tomorrow, the war begins. Zara didn't sleep. She lay in the massive bed in the guest room, staring at the ceiling. She was trapped. She had traded a prison cell for a gilded cage. But as she replayed the events of the night, one image kept coming back to her. Teo standing between her and the crowd. The way he looked at them, like a wolf guarding a bone. He hadn't protected her out of kindness, but he had protected her. She got up and walked to the ensuite bathroom. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her makeup was smudged. Her eyes were red. But the fire Teo had mentioned, it was there. Okay, she whispered to her reflection. You want a partner, Teo Min? You're going to get one. Clause 4. The marriage will be legally binding. Clause 7. No physical intimacy is required. Clause 15. In the event of treason, the contract is void, and the party at fault forfeits all assets. Treason, Zara muttered. Dramatic. Necessary. Teo's voice came from the doorway. He was dressed in a charcoal suit, looking fresh and sharp, as if he hadn't just upended both their lives. Sign it. We have a lunch appointment. With who? My father. Zara froze. The chairman? Now? I haven't even showered. You have 1 hour. Wear the white dress in the closet. It makes you look innocent. 1 hour later, Zara stepped out of the elevator into the private dining room of a Michelin star restaurant in Gangnam. She wore the white dress. It was modest, elegant, and cost more than her car. Teo placed a hand on the small of her back. His touch was warm, firm, and possessive. Remember, he whispered as the doors opened, you adore me, and you are heartbroken by Julian's betrayal. I don't have to act the second part, she muttered. Inside, 3 people sat at a round table. An old man hooked up to a portable oxygen tank, Chairman Min, a sharp-eyed woman with a pearl necklace, the stepmother, Lady Choi, and a younger man who looked like a softer, weaker version of Tayo, his half-brother, Ji-hoon. Father, Teo said, bowing slightly. He didn't bow to the others. You're late, the chairman wheezed, his eyes, milky with age but still sharp, locked onto Zara. And this is her? The thief? The victim, Teo corrected, pulling out a chair for Zara. And my future wife. She's a foreigner, Lady Choi said, sipping her tea. Her voice was like poisoned honey. And involved in a scandal. Teo, really, I know you like to shock us, but this is low, even for you. Zara felt Teo stiffen beside her. She saw his hand clench into a fist under the table. He was going to explode. She realized then that for all his power, in this room, he was the outcast. They hated him. Without thinking, Zara reached out and covered his fist with her hand. Her skin stood out against his. Lady Choi, Zara said, her voice steady and calm. I may be a foreigner, and I may be in the middle of a scandal not of my making, but I am also the woman who built the most successful contemporary art program in this city. I bring value. Can you say the same, or do you just spend your husband's money? Silence. Absolute, dead silence. Ji-hoon choked on his water. Teo turned to look at her, his eyes wide with shock. The chairman started to laugh. It was a dry, hacking sound. She has teeth. I like teeth. Lady Choi glared at Zara, her face flushing red. How dare you? Enough, the chairman said. He looked at Teo. Marry her. If she can handle this family, she can handle the company. But fix the scandal. I don't want police at the wedding. The lunch continued, tense and awkward. Zara played the part. She cut Teo's meat for him when he was talking. She laughed softly at his dry jokes. When they finally left and got back into the car, Teo let out a long breath. He loosened his tie and leaned his head back. You're dangerous, he said. I defended you, Zara said, looking at her hands. You insulted my stepmother to her face. No one has done that in 30 years. He turned his head to look at her. The cold mask was gone, replaced by something else. Curiosity? Respect? Why? He asked. Because we have a deal, Zara said, and because she's a witch. Teo chuckled. It was a real sound this time, deeply resonant. Yes, she is. He reached out and took her hand. He didn't let go for the rest of the ride. Behind closed doors, the dynamic was shifting. They were roommates in a war zone. Zara spent her days working with Teo's legal team, building a case against Julian. She found the digital trail Julian had tried to erase. She was brilliant, meticulous. Teo spent his nights managing his shadow empire. He would come home at 2 a.m., smelling of smoke and violence, his knuckles bruised. Zara would be up, waiting with tea and a first aid kit. "You don't have to do this," he said one night as she dabbed antiseptic on a cut above his eyebrow. He was sitting on the edge of the bathtub, shirt off, revealing a map of scars across his torso. "I'm protecting my investment," Zara said softly, applying a butterfly bandage. "If you die, I don't get my 10 million. "Is that the only reason?" Teo caught her wrist. His eyes searched hers. The air in the bathroom grew heavy, charged with electricity. "Teo. They call me a monster, Zara. Do you know that? The mad dog." "I see a man who is lonely," she whispered, "and tired." He leaned into her hand. For a second she thought he was going to kiss her. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She wanted him to. God help her, she wanted him to. But the moment was shattered by the screech of the security alarm. "Stay here," Teo commanded, instantly shifting from vulnerable to lethal. He pulled a gun from a hidden compartment under the sink. "Teo! Lock the door. Do not open it unless you hear my voice." He vanished into the hallway. Zara locked the door, her hands shaking. She heard shouting, the sound of heavy thuds, gunshots, silenced, spitting sounds. She couldn't just hide. She grabbed a heavy ceramic vase from the counter and unlocked the door. She crept down the hallway. In the living room, chaos. 3 men in black tactical gear were fighting Teo. He moved like a demon, brutal and efficient. He broke one man's arm with a sickening crunch, kicked another in the throat. But the third man was behind him, raising a knife. "Behind you!" Zara screamed. She threw the vase. It wasn't a perfect aim, but it smashed into the attacker's shoulder, distracting him. Teo spun around, saw the knife, and caught the man's wrist. He drove his knee into the man's gut and slammed his head into the floor. Silence returned. 3 bodies lay groaning on the expensive hardwood. Teo stood over them, chest heaving, blood dripping from his lip. He looked at Zara. He looked at the shattered vase. "I told you to stay in the room," he roared, anger masking his fear. "I just saved your life," Zara shouted back, marching up to him. "Don't you dare yell at me." Teo looked at her, furious and wild-eyed. Then he grabbed her face with bloodied hands and kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate. It was the kiss of a man who had forgotten what it felt like to be alive. Zara melted into him, wrapping her arms around his neck, pulling him closer. The danger, the adrenaline, the fear, it all poured into that kiss. When he pulled back, their foreheads rested against each other. "Julian sent them," Teo rasped. "He's getting desperate." "Then let's finish him," Zara said. 2 days before the ceremony, Zara received a text message. "Come to the old gallery, alone. Or I release the video." Attached was a video file. Zara clicked it. It was grainy footage from a hidden camera in the penthouse. It showed Teo beating a man, one of the intruders, interrogating him. It looked bad. It looked like murder. "If this leaks," the text read, "Teo goes to prison for life. He loses everything. Come to me." Zara felt cold. She couldn't tell Teo. He would go there and kill Julian, and then he really would go to prison. She had to handle this. She dressed in black. She took a taxi to the park gallery, which was now boarded up and dark. She slipped through the back entrance she knew so well. The main hall was empty, ghostly in the moonlight. "Julian!" she called out. Spotlights clicked on, blinding her. Julian sat on the stage where he had humiliated her, sitting on a folding chair. He looked terrible, unshaven, manic. "You came," he smiled. "I knew you would. You always had a hero complex. Delete the video, Julian." "Oh, it's not just a video, Zara. It's leverage." He stood up. "Leave him. Come back to me. Admit that you were working with him to steal the company, and I can spin this. We can both be victims." "You're delusional." "Am I?" Julian pulled out a remote. "I have a live stream set up. One button, and that video goes to the police and the media." "You won't do it." "Try me." Zara stepped forward. "Why do you hate me so much? I did everything for you." "Because you were better than me," Julian screamed, his voice cracking. "Everyone knew it. The board, the artists. They all looked at you with respect. They looked at me like I was just the owner's son. I had to break you to feel tall." "Pathetic," a voice echoed from the shadows. Julian froze. Teo stepped out from behind a pillar. He wasn't alone. He had his security team, the real ones, lining the balcony above. "You followed me?" Zara asked, relieved and angry. "I put a tracker in your shoe the first day," Teo said calmly. "I knew you would try to do something noble and stupid." "He has the video," Zara warned. Teo looked at Julian. "Upload it. Go ahead." Julian's thumb hovered over the button. "I'll do it. I'll destroy you." "That video," Teo said, walking closer, "shows me interrogating a hitman you hired. A hitman who confessed on tape 5 minutes later. A hitman who is currently in police custody giving a statement about how Julian Park paid him to assassinate me." Julian's hand shook. "The police are outside, Julian," Teo said softly. "It's over." Julian looked at the remote. He looked at Teo. Then he looked at Zara. The hate in his eyes curdled into despair. He dropped the remote. He fell to his knees and began to sob. Police swarmed the room as they handcuffed Julian and dragged him away, the exact reverse of what had happened to Zara weeks ago. She felt no joy, just exhaustion. Teo walked up to her. He didn't say, "I told you so." He simply took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Let's go home," he said. "You tracked my shoe?" Zara asked, breaking the silence. "I tracked your phone, your watch, and your shoe," Teo admitted without shame. "I told you. You are my investment." "Is that all I am?" Teo signaled the driver to pull over. They were on the bridge overlooking the Han River. "Get out," he said. They stood by the railing, the wind whipping Zara's hair. "The contract," Teo said, looking at the water. "It ends in 11 months." "Yes." "I want to void it." Zara's heart stopped. "You want me to leave?" "No." Teo turned to her. He looked terrified. The mad dog, who fought assassins and corporate raiders, looked scared of a woman. "I want to void the expiration date," he said. "I do not want you for a year, Zara. I want you. Period. I want to wake up and see you. I want to argue with you. I want you to save my life, and I want to save yours." He reached into his pocket. Not a contract this time. A ring, a black diamond, stark and beautiful. "This is not for the cameras," he said. "This is for us. Will you marry me? For real?" Zara looked at the ring. She looked at the man who had pulled her out of the fire and walked through hell with her. "You're bossy," she said, tears spilling over, "and paranoid, and you have too many enemies." "I'm working on the enemies," he promised. "Okay," she whispered. "Yes." He slipped the ring on her finger. He kissed her, and this time, under the moonlight, it felt like a promise. It wasn't held in a hotel. It was held in the Park Gallery, now renamed the Undiayamin Art Center. Zara walked down the aisle, not in a traditional white dress, but in a gown of gold and black, honoring her heritage. The crowd was filled with people who had shunned her, now bowing and scraping. She ignored them all. At the altar, Teo waited. He looked at her as if she was the only source of light in the room. The chairman sat in the front row, looking smug. Lady Choi looked like she had swallowed a lemon, which made Zara smile. As they exchanged vows, Zara looked out at the crowd. She saw the cameras. She knew the world was watching, but she also knew the truth. They weren't watching a scandal. They were watching a coronation. "I, Tayo," he said, his voice steady. "Take you, Zara, to be my partner, in war and in peace." "I, Zara," she replied, squeezing his hand. "Take you, Tayo, to be my shelter, in storm and in silence." When the priest pronounced them husband and wife, the applause was deafening, but Zara barely heard it. Teo leaned in close. "Ready for the reception?" "I'm ready for anything," she said. They walked back down the aisle, hands clasped tight. Outside, the world was waiting, the paparazzi, the shareholders, the enemies. But as they stepped out into the flashing lights, Zara didn't flinch. She wasn't the victim anymore. She wasn't the fraud. She was Mrs. Min. And the mad dog was on her leash, just as she was on his. They got into the car, the door slamming shut on the noise. Tai-O pulled her into his lap, burying his face in her neck. "We did it." "We're just getting started," Zara said, looking out the window at the city that was now theirs. The car sped off into the night, leaving the broken glass of the past behind them, driving toward a future that was dangerous, uncertain, and absolutely perfect. Thank you for watching this story.